because what we say as theists, by definition, something eternal had to cause it, which had a conscious mind. Because from our understanding, everything in existence has a form of beginning, as like the first cause argument. However, when it comes to like the universe being created, what we say that even as an atheist, you would have to acknowledge that some supernatural event has occurred. Now, logic therefore dictates that how can something occur when there is an absolute absence, because by definition nothing is the absence of everything and anything. So if you have these definitions in regards to these two terms, then that is inconceivable. So the only other plausibility is that something created the universe, something beyond the universe, something which is not contingent upon the universe and is necessary. For example, the universe is contingent upon parts and it comes into a whole. But those contingent parts by itself are not necessary. Are you following what I mean? There's something outside that set of contingent.
I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying we don't know what was beforehand. And for me it's hard to believe something that we don't know. So for me my knowledge stops at the Big Bang. And I don't know what happened before the Big Bang. Maybe you're correct, maybe a God made the Big Bang. But for me there is no proof of that. There is proof of Big Bang, there is no proof of what was beforehand. So for me that's why I don't believe in anything, because I don't see the proof.
So then what we say by necessity is these are questions which should make you think deeply, because these are matters which deal with the metaphysical. So if it's in the metaphysical, then you've got to think to yourself, okay, what are the possibilities then? If I can't prove a creator, then what is the other possibility? The other possibility was that the universe eternally existed, which was the prevailing thought up until the advent of the red heat shift, how the universe expanded, it came forth from a singular point and it moved forward due to that. So that means the universe had a beginning, as according to the Edwin Hubble. So if the universe had a beginning, then what caused that beginning? So what we say by definition, something which is necessary, uncontingent, and it's if the universe is made up of parts, which it is, and they've all come together in a body, in one body to form the universe, that in itself makes the universe contingent upon something outside of that set of contingent things, and that therefore that set of that thing has to be necessary by definition. Are you following what I'm saying? I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but so if it's all come little parts and brought it together and it's come as a whole, is that it? No, because by definition that these things are contingent upon the parts coming together to form the whole. So something has to be outside of that set, and it has to be by definition not contingent and necessary and independent.
Yes, I mean I agree that there was probably something before the Big Bang that created.
Okay, now then what we say, it must have had a consciousness and a will.
That I do not believe.
That you do not believe. So what we're therefore saying is, on your understanding, something which is totally a nothing in terms of its definition, as we already mentioned. By nothing, I mean, by nothing comes nothing. Nothing by definition is the absence of everything and anything, which makes it too inconceivable, you see. That's what you call that's something which is going too far, it's too far-fetched.
Well, but for example, we know our galaxies, the galaxy we are on and the neighboring one are gonna collide at some point, and there's gonna be a big explosion.
Yes.
Do you think that the galaxies has consciousness to create this explosion?
Yeah, but that's as a result of the components which went forth from the red, because
we don't know the components that were before the Big Bang. What if there were similar components as our galaxies that just crashed into each other and created the universe?
Yeah, so you're arguing for multi-universes.
Yes.
So that would, by the definition, still bring you back to the issue of where did it all start from? It doesn't solve the question. So what we say then, this is what you call dealing in the metaphysical, maybe certain philosophical arguments which have to be presented, that just by definition. So what we say then is that, for me, it's perfect sense that something would have had a will or a consciousness behind it. So this mobile phone, first time it's ever been made, you would say that if you saw it on the floor, you picked up the device, you opened it, and you could speak, you would have thought, where has this come from? It's very technical in parts. Something must have created it. It couldn't have just fallen down and been there. That's impossible. Some conscious minds have made this, or a conscious mind has made this. So similarly, the magnitude of the universe suggests, based upon the points that I've made, that it has to be the definer, or has to be independent by necessity, you see. It's a very good, known as an argument from contingency, as proposed by a famous Muslim by the name of Avicenna. Avicenna, his name in English. You should read up on it. It's known as a contingency argument. So that is a very good proponent of this. It's got very weak, it's got very low what you call falsification as well. So for me, it sits very, very comfortably that yes, something beyond the universe, not contingent upon the universe, has to be independent, cannot have a beginning or an end, otherwise we come into the issue of infinite regress. Who created that God? Who created that God? And this will go on forever. If that goes on forever, we would not come into the present, because as you know, we cannot traverse in infinity. So it then only leads us with one possible sound explanation, that there must have been some sort of conscious being who created this. Everything in our worldly affairs tells us this as well. So hence, this is the argument that I would present, and I hope it makes sense in some capacity.
It does. As a belief, I completely understand it.
And good reason for it as well.
Yes,
Not
yes.
just belief, but good reason for it.
Okay.
Because what's the other possibility then?
Yes, no, but for me, unfortunately, it sounds similar to Greek mythology.
Mythology.
Mythology, sorry. Of how people explain what they didn't understand in their environment by creating the gods. And I believe that the faith nowadays does pretty similar thing, just we know way more. So it explains the stuff we still don't know. What happens after death, what happened at the beginning, we don't know that.
Yes.
And the theologies do explain that.
Yeah, that's clear. What we don't know is these points. However, what I've tried to reason with you is by stating the obvious. So when you look at the obvious, a universe which came into existence some 14 billion years ago, why did it come into existence? Who set it in motion? What was the factors? Like for example, energy. You know, energy, it cannot be created and destroyed within a closed system. You know, like a closed system, but it doesn't mean that it can't go out of that system either. So what we then say, there's something that even energy itself needs some sort of fusion to it in order for it to enact something, or for it to come forth, you see. And something, it's like a record player. It goes round and round, and when you want to stop the record at a particular tune, you know, in the older, you just touch your finger and the record stops. So that must be the arbitrator who does that stop. And here, therefore, that arbitrator is the one that creates, you see. Because otherwise, there's no other plausible explanation. That over here, like there was an understanding going back about 150 years ago, slightly longer, that the universe is eternal. It's always existed. That was the understanding in the West 150 years ago. However, due to these modern scientific experiments, it's been shown that this is not the case. So, although you can't say for sure anything, you see, you can't. I mean, the Big Bang is just a theory, but it's a proposed and understood theory, and it's generally been acknowledged. But it doesn't mean it's irrevocably. Yeah. But at the moment, we can only go by what is the most possible, and that is what you would say about that. Hence, we accept that. So, for a theist perspective, that if there is a creator, what is the purpose of our creation? Are we created purposelessly, for no reason whatsoever, or is there a reason for our creation? It makes no sense to me, for example, if there's a creator, he's created this infinitesimally huge universe, and he's created it for no reason, and he's created us for no reason. That makes no sense to me at all.
Have you never created something for no reason at all, just to create something?
Pardon?
Have you,
Yes.
as a person, never create something just to create something, just for the sake of creation? With no purpose whatsoever, you create something and you just put it there.
Yes.
And it's there, and it has no purpose whatsoever.
Yes, I mean, those are things that you don't really need or you don't have an activity for. However, because we are active human beings, we've got logic, we've got mind, we've got components, we've got faculties, everything is conducive for our existence. So therefore, it implies that something is prevailing over us, which wants us to acknowledge our creator. The fact that you've stopped here, I'm sure you're busy, you've got things to do, but the fact that you want this discussion, we believe it's something inertly within us.
Or
innerly,
discussion,
rather.
because nobody had ever managed to explain to me the basics of belief, because I just don't understand. Because what you say makes sense, absolutely, yes. I just don't believe that, and I don't know how to believe that. Because for me, like you said, your thinking is sound. There is a line of thought there,
Yes.
but for me it's false. There's no evidence.
But you have to falsify it. You can't say, for example, it's false without giving me substantial reasons for you to say it's false.
What evidence do you have besides your train of thoughts?
Because that's all it can possibly be.
Exactly.
Because
it's all just thoughts.
No, but it can't be false. You got to give a sound reasoning. So you got to look at my argument and say it's false because of da. You can't say it's false because it doesn't. I can't see God, for example. You can't say that because what's the other possibility? Because we already discussed. What's the other possibility? A universe. We already defined what nothing is. The opposite of it. So something popping in. Nah, that doesn't make sense to me. Something just coming in without any consciousness, mind, will, nothing exists. And then it exists? No. There has to be something there. And even Lawrence Krauss, which in his book, Something from Nothing, even he states as well, there's always something there. There was something there, even though he tries to redefine these terms. And he's an eminent atheist. I'm sure you know who he is. So therefore, what we say then, that when you look at the possibilities and plausibility based upon those points I've made to you, then you have to show to me, okay, your argument is not sound because of this reason, that there's a hole in your argument that you presented, in your good reasons.
I'm saying it is an argument.
But you said it was sound as well, if I recall you saying.
Yes.
So if it's sound,
It is sound.
then you got to show to me with respect to you how you think it's a false. Why is it false?
Because we do have evidence of a Big Bang happening. We do have.
So we accept, yes?
Yes. We have some kind of evidence of Big Bang happening. We have some evidence of universe ending at some point.
Yes.
We do not have evidence of what happened beforehand. What you're doing is speculating, and it is a hypothesis, and there can be multiple hypotheses. I do not have a hypothesis of what happened beforehand.
But what we know is something. But what we can say, even if you can't give the exact scenario, you can certainly say it happened.
Yes.
There's no disputing that, is there?
Happened beforehand. Yes.
Yeah, something happened.
Yes.
So what we say by definition, that something that happened
Yes.
must have had a conscious will, because some gargantuan explosion took place. How? If for example you press if you light a fire, you got to light a match. If you press a trigger, then the gun will fire. If you put your stove on, you'll press the click, it will come on. So what we're saying, these are all components which allow these things to happen, you see. So something must have initiated it. I mean, what are we saying? Just say there was primordial matter and these entities. Are you trying to say that that matter always existed, which is only the component of the universe in the first place? But just say, then what decided at that time to make it come into existence? And does it have a consciousness? Does it have a consciousness for it to always exist? But no, matter is a component of the universe within itself. So hence what we say, and it's a very strong argument, you see, that something, and I'll repeat it last time, because I think I made my point very clear, that it's something which is not contingent. The universe is made up of parts or coming together, so it's contingent upon these parts. So by definition, something has to be independent of these parts. It has to be necessary, and it cannot, because it could have been any other way. But the fact that it's this particular way shows that this necessary existent has to be independent and not contingent, because then he will be confined to the contingent set of things, but he has to be outside of that set of contingent things. Make sense? That's it. That's all I think we can conclude it.
Yeah, no, I feel like we are going in circles.
Circles we are,
Because
yes.
I do believe that what you're saying about the contingent being, the being outside of the contingents,
Yes.
an independent being, like I said, it feels like Greek mythology to me, of people trying to explain why it's raining, why the volcano erupted, because they didn't understand the science behind it, and we do not understand the science behind the Big Bang. We do not know. We don't have any.
But you see, I know, but that's where we delve into the matters of the metaphysical and philosophy, you see.
Yes.
Because then it's based upon logic, understanding. But what we can conclude satisfactorily is that something magnificent has happened. For me, it's perfect sense that something beyond the universe has created this, and that by definition, for us, will be God. Nice speaking to you. You have a good evening. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. So, a conversation which seemed to go around in circles at the end. I hope people found it self-explanatory as to how I've explained it. She said it was sound and it was good reasoning behind it, but she said it was like, afterwards she said she doesn't believe it because it's false and it's not enough evidence. But we've already went round with that in circles. I presented all the good reasoning for it, whereas the lady's kids, we don't know. And she couldn't show a hole within the discrepancy of my points that I raised. And that's the issue at stake, because she has to then give an explanation as to how it came about. So may Allah guide us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.